The system that doesn't scale is central control. That if you think about it, a
Mm.
system of a pure socialist system, a system in which you have some authority who tells everybody what to do and they do it, works for small groups. It works pretty well for a monastery. Uh,
Yeah.
we've had communes up to 100 people or so, the Oneida community. It only lasted for about one generation.
Mm.
There are stability problems, but if you think of a small firm is in effect a mini socialist state where the owner is telling everybody what to do. He's telling them what to do only in business hours, so to speak. Uh, and the problem with centralized control is that it doesn't scale. That if you think about the model of somebody at the top telling everybody what to do, well, if it's one person at the top and four people at the bottom, and if the one person is smart and clever and a nice person and so forth, he may be able to figure out what everybody should do better than they could. But if you're talking about 8 levels of bureaucracy, because you need that in order that one person can control 1 million people or whatever, 100,000 or something, then it works very badly. And it works very badly for, I guess, three different reasons. I think three different reasons. One of them is that coordinating 1 million people is a much, much harder problem than coordinating four people. Uh, and in the standard example is the somebody's example with the making a pencil, that if you work out all of the inputs and all of the chains of causation, it takes 1 million people to make a pencil because somebody has to mine the
Right.
iron to make the chainsaws to cut down the trees and so forth and so on and so forth and so on. It's a nice dramatic example. It's a very simple one. Uh, so it's a very hard problem. Uh, Second is it is very hard for the person at the top to know what's happening because the people below him all have their own incentives, their own interests. And if I'm in fact taking time off because I like playing World of Warcraft, I'm not going to tell my boss that. I'm going to tell my boss, well, I finished that project and uh, no, I haven't finished that project. I've got to work some more on that project. I'll get back to you next week and so forth, and run that through all of the layers. It becomes harder and harder
Right.
for anybody at the top to know what's happening. And the third reason is that the person at the top is very different from the people at the bottom, and he may act from his own self-interest, so that you have lots of cases. Not all dictators. Some dictators, I think, really were trying to make their country better. Uh, but an awful lot of dictators took the opportunity to live a very luxurious life for themselves and to do things that made them less likely to lose power, but made the country worse off, and so forth. So that the problem of scaling with centralized control is one of the reasons why it doesn't work, except on a very small scale, and that decentralized, the market solution, scales very nicely. And if you think about not anarcho-capitalism, but about the world economy, somehow people in Finland make things that people in America buy. The I was just
Yes.
one of my hobbies for a long time has been historical recreation, and I used to do sword and shield fighting, and I'm too old for it now. But my son has gotten interested in the idea, and so I've been looking at things for him. And it turns out that one of the places you can buy armor, which people in the hobby seem to think well of, is Finland for people doing this hobby in
Yes.
America. Uh, and there is no
Yeah. Yeah.
world government controlling it, but somehow or other the entrepreneurs in Finland figured out what American customers wanted to buy and figured out how to maybe they're getting some of their inputs from Russia or from somewhere else. I don't know. I'm told that a lot of the riveted chainmail that's now available, which is very impressive if you were trying to make chainmail 50 years ago, is coming out of Russia. Uh, so we observe the basic approach scaling, and whether the particular application of it to law and legal system scales, that we have to find out. But But we also observe the
Right.
centralized approach not scaling very badly.